And female forest owners are rather common in Sweden, so I've been attending courses also held by this forest association. So my main work has been so far to look after the plants, and the more I work with them, the more interesting it gets, the more I want to know. The more I'm doing with the forest, the more interesting it gets. And also my grandfather, he was a forest worker from the beginning, rather poor but working himself up. And when I was a child, he had a huge forest. So when I was young, forestry was in the family. But then when he got old, none of his children wanted to proceed this, so it was sold. So now it's like returning again.
So, and we have been trying to keep the leaves for the animals in the winter, so we don't cut away everything. We keep, so if it's an area without any pine, we will let the leaf trees grow so they have food.
Well, it started with us not being in forestry at all, me and my brother, and they were cutting down this forest here. This forest goes all the way down to the lake. And, oh no, don't cut down our forest. That was our first thought. And so we bought it. It was time to cut it down, and we didn't understand. I've learned a lot during this trip. So I could sit here and see how the trees were starting to die because they were old. So we had to take it down. That was my first step in forestry, like 10 years. And if you have someone, to ask, it's much easier. So they would take down the forest, and then, we decided after a while to plant the pines instead, and then they would send a troop of guys and girls also who came here and did this planting.
So this is really pine land, sandy soil. It's so sandy.
Maybe it was a bad idea to keep them, I don't know, because some of them have fallen. And you can see there's a dead tree. You see that one? And we should keep the dead tree standing, because a standing dead tree is much more good for insects than if it lays down.
I've been working for the Farmers Association, and it's a difference on this island compared to most other parts of Sweden is that the farmers have very little forest. In the other parts of Sweden, you have, if the milk price goes down, you do have the forest. You have many legs to stand on. And they are more depending on the cows on this island. So there's more cows per capita on this island than anywhere else in Sweden. Forestry is really not that big. It used to be like on Iceland, deforested, no trees whatsoever. So having forest it's before Iceland, but it's not like the rest of Sweden. So the trees that were here that we cut down, they were, that was a new thing. So you can see on different places on Öland where you can really see it's like squares with forest. If you look at the houses on Öland, in the rest of Sweden you could have timber, but here you have planks because you had to be more careful. You didn't have that many trees to cut down. It has been growing. I know when they took down my forest, they did take a lot of other places on Öland, and they were a bit surprised how much they got out, quite a lot of timber. And then also after they took down the trees, they would keep the branches and stuff. They would put them in big piles, and after a year they came and they took it away and got it to Kalmar to heat up Kalmar.
The thing with the year is to leave the nutrients on the site. That's why they left it for a year before taking it out. The branches and needles and things should be decomposed on the site.
To make my brother, who is a big tree hugger, we saved the trees close to here like a Potemkin thing, so he couldn't see it when it was all down so much. So that's why.
Quite awful that the people keep a tree.
But Södra will have their entrepreneurs that they will. I will not have the direct. Of course, I have a direct contact when they are here, but I will not order Mr. C, and so I will call Södra and say, well, for taking down and also for putting down the new trees.
So you're pretty happy with the service that Södra provides?
If you're not a big forest owner, it wouldn't work out otherwise. If you have a huge forest, like some people do, several hundreds hectares, then you can do it yourself. But if you only have a small, or if you're a small forest owner, it wouldn't work by yourself. You can't know everything.
And I mean, to prepare the soils for planting and to do the fellings, it requires big machines. You know, it's not like the old days where there was manpower thing. And this is, of course, one of the reasons why these associations also help the high degree of female ownership in Sweden. It's 40% of the forest is owned by females. But it's not a matter of strength. It's a matter of having a mind and a mindset of what you want to do with your forest and a good contact with your association.
I don't think my son ever will be very interested in this. He is an IT technician, so, well, one never knows. But that's not so important. I don't really care who will proceed this. It's just that it's important that it will be nice for the next generation. You have to restore the forest. It's in the legislation. But it doesn't really matter because I would have restored it anyway. Because I don't want to... It's not about my children or any grandchildren or anything like that, because I don't know if anyone wants to keep on this. One never knows. It's just to leave something behind that's could be nice for next generation, whoever it is.
We call it copper snake, but it's not a snake. But it has a problem to move in the sand.
Yeah, they should move because
it's not dangerous. It's just no harm for anyone.
I mean, it's important for if you're depending on your forest to earn sufficient amount of money. And also I can use the money that I got from the forest to, I have done down here, I have been making fences so I can have animals to browse. So I can spend the money from the forest on things that I might not have done otherwise. That goes back to the forest.
You sell your wood and you earn money. You can pay tax on that as an income. But you can use this untaxed money, the income, to invest in your farm, in planting or roads or fencing and things. So it's very, from tax point of view, you are stimulated to reinvest in your farm.
Yes.
And that is a very smart system.
Yes.
Because then you develop the farm. You make it even better. That's a very small thing that you can use non-taxed money after harvest.
You have a special account at the bank that says forest account. You can have the money there and you can use it for 10 years like this. We could use it for taking care of the forest. So it's really good because otherwise it will be on top of your income. So you will tax away quite a lot of it, at least if you're still working. So that will promote putting the money back in the forest in some way. But I could always spend it like this fence that I made, which wasn't cheap, but I could use the forest money for it. And now I have the cows and sheep. It's getting very expensive to have animals, and I think you have to have... Some people ask me, why shouldn't they pay the fence if they have the animals? But in Sweden now, to have animals grazing, it's not so easy. You have to make it good for the animal owners, so they want to have their animals grazing at your land. And if you don't, it will just grow. Before they cut down the trees, it was a forest, so it's been a forest. So in some parts of Sweden, it's the opposite to Iceland. They try to take forest away and put animals back to get this more open land back.
Take animals away. The general public opinion about forestry and forest management, are you affected by the discussions on climate change and things? Is it important to grow trees for the climate change mitigation?
I was a bit early for that because I have already planted all my trees, and I think it's very important for the climate to have the forest. And I'm a bit scared of what's happening in Brussels right now, or in Strasbourg, with the parliament, because I don't think that they understand forestry. But it wasn't that hot discussion when I did this, so it wasn't really. I didn't think about it that much in those days. But I know that some neighbors were very upset when we took down the old forest. They thought it was terrible, because that was a forest they had always been walking in, and they knew everything, and well, they didn't see it with my eyes. I thought it looked really terrible with the dying trees, but they only saw the ways they had always been walking. No, I'm no expert. No, I'm not, because I follow my forest. It was like they were kids and then they were growing, so I'm in the stage. It's like when you have children, you're good at small children and teenagers, and suddenly they are grown-ups and they manage it. That's what I'm hoping for. I want the forest that grown up. But I won't see it. It's a little bit sad. I will never see it grown up.